when a child is young, is growing up, a young adult, he's very idealistic, full of ideals. He wants to change the world, wants to fix the world, he says he wants to go to yeshiva, he wants to enlist in the army, he has great dreams, great lofty childhood dreams of grandeur, of amazing things. And the parents try to tell him to calm down. You have to be realistic. Why do you have to go to dangerous places? Why do you have to volunteer and do all these things? You can just get along. You have to go to school, go to college, get a degree, and make a living. You have to think about yourself. You have to be practical and realistic, it's called. And the youth is exemplified by their not realistic, their idealism, and the adult generation, so to speak, comes to quench that, and, like I say, with the more realistic. And one might think that the adults are right, that you have to be realistic. We live in this world. To change the world. Many people have tried to change the world, and just go and get a job and settle down. I remember in the 60s, all those guys, those burning down the banks, whatever, all those Jews, Mark Rudd and Radinsky. Then now later, many of them became, joined the establishment or whatever. The truth is you need both. And a little bit we'll just talk about this function of these two aspects of the idealistic youth. That youth has that purity, that naivete of a better world, a bigger world, a healthier world, and the adult, the world that they see the world as it is with all the corruption and evil and the problems, and you just try to get along with that. Rav Kook writes in a letter, also in Volume 1, the famous, called the Igeret HaChinuch, the letter of education. What is the purpose of education? Letter 170. And he says, what is the purpose, the main central purpose of education? What to do with this youth? There are those that said you have to train him, start training him with their vocation, whatever, Rav Kook says, the purpose of education is to prepare man for his ultimate form, his proper idyllic tzura, form, with the central point of which is to make him tov yashar, good and straight, honest, righteous, to be a good person, to make him full of aspirations of goodness. That's what he is, that's what the neshama already has, but to develop that, to teach him that, to give him, when he's ripe, for those pure, naive, as we'll see, concepts of goodness, of loving, of caring, of giving. None of this selfish and worry about yourself, and to train him to be tov yashar. And that's from Avram Avinu, right? That we have planted in us. The nation of Israel especially, that's our education, to raise the flag of this decision that the main thing of man is tov vayosher, the straightness, the goodness, the kindness. That is the ultimate goal. For that man is sent to this world. That is, like I said, the whole purpose of creation, and that is you're flowing with the tide of creation, and you'll also be the most happy and calm person, because that's fulfilling your soul. That's what the soul wants. And the neshama wants oneness, goodness, giving, caring, loving, for all, not just your local. There's levels and levels of that good, of the expression of that, but the ultimate is the absolute good of expressing that one, that white light for all of creation. Therefore, from the beginning, when the child is young, dafka, to train him to be good. Later, preparing man for the war of life. In other words, vicissitudes and all the problems of making a living and the sustenance, whatever. That is always what's considered by us a secondary side function of education. And not the etzem atrato, not the goal in and of itself. The goal isn't to teach you how to get along in this, in other words, to get along in this world. It's to change this world, to better this world, to be a good soul, to be a neshama, a healthy, proper, to live your soul. He said, unfortunately, we were influenced by outside influences that the main goal of education is to prepare man for the milchemet hachayim. It's a rough world outside. You have to get along. You have to know how to compete. You have to know how to be better. You have to know how to succeed. And all that we spoke about, a little bit of what emanates from that. but rather to be good. Later, all the education you'll have, once you're a holy idealist, later all the education and wisdom and languages and sciences and all the things you'll learn will be used by that healthy soul that aspires for good, will be used to be good, to apply that good, to bring that good in any way you can in the actual, practical, difficult, problematic world. But if you have the wisdom of the world, so to speak, the vocations and different things of wisdom and science, without that good soul, then that can be used for corruption, for selfish private interests, which means for the demise of other people. As opposed to, if the first framework, the first basis of education of the child is to be good, to be a good person. That's the normal, that's the healthy, that's what his all aspirations and his pictures and his images of Avraham Avinu, all the midrashim and all the stories of goodness, of helping, of Avraham Avinu goes when he's after the Brit Milah and he's suffering, so to speak, and it's hot and there's no, and God, he wants guests, and he just wants to bring in more and look for people, he's searching for people to do good to. No one's coming, but he's out to look for more, so God sends him these people that he thinks are human beings, that Arabs that worship the dirt of their feet. And you think this person of emunah, of the oneness of the world, that he sees the lowest level of idolatry, we've explained a little bit. You think he would spit, he would throw up, and how can he get along with it? He brings them in, come eat, let me give you, let me... That love for all, no limits whatsoever. That's Avraham Avinu, that's an aneshama. So the child that learns that, grows up with that, then later all the extrapolation and all the wisdom that will embellish that, will be embellishments to that soul of good, that aspiring soul of goodness, to bring good to the world, justice to the world. As opposed to, I said, wisdom alone, the outside, without the inner good, it can go in, as we see, different directions of corruption, of killing. Use that wisdom to make, viruses in the computer, to hurt people, to the damage, instead of making antiviruses, to help other people, how I can give and support. And this, Rav Kook elaborates in a few places. Again, we don't have time to read the whole, but in Einayah, in Shabbat, Aleph. This is his commentary on the Ein Yaakov, on the Midrashic, the Agadata parts of the Gemara. He takes out from them these concepts and ideas and moral, spiritual teachings, you can call it. On page 35, he talks about the function of youth. Different stages of learning Chumash, learning Mishnah, learning Gemara, in important stages of life, and specifically why the child learns the Chumash, the Tanakh, when he's young. And later, more sophisticated, the Mishnah, more the complicated, more the abstract, more the application. Again, with this explanation, what I just said, of the youth, he says, is more prepared to receive these holy, lofty emotions of holiness. That the naive, the naivete, because he's so naive, he hasn't met the world that people are so corrupt and are out to get you and out to, you have to, again, it's a war of life and competition. He's simple thing, and he trusts everyone, he loves everything, and he's full of that. And that's why he's able to perceive and receive and to leklit, to absorb, internalize in his pure heart and his soft, naive heart for that light of holiness. Later, he will have to learn and study how to, like I said, to live those ideals, not to get rid of those ideals, not to quench those ideals and be realistic. How to live those ideals in the real problematic world, where there are people that are out to get you and problematic, and not everyone is so perfect and good, and there's the dog-eat-dog world. But how to remain with that good and apply that and to live that and to spread that and radiate that good. Not to detract from that. The adult stage, or the adults themselves, or the adult stage of life, is to embellish that goodness, and now to give you the strength to apply it in the different situations. Not with the intellect, not with some naive of just wanting to trust everything as it is, it's all rosy, everything is perfect. No, the world isn't so perfect. But now you are so implanted, this initial inculcation, what's it called? This initial, what's it called? Like a greenhouse. You prepare the plants at the beginning, you fortify them. And then you can now take them out to the real world, and now they can grow and radiate instead of, and be an influence and not be influenced by the outside world. So they need this strong, initial, pure greenhouse in the beginning, in the sterile atmosphere of holiness, of goodness, of Avraham Avinu, of Chesed, of Ish Tzaddik Yarayat,